5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
This is the Culture Clash.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey, guess what, everybody? It's Friday night, and Culture Clash Live is back. Yes, we are live tonight with Culture Clash here on the Fandom Podcast Network. If you're watching on our YouTube channel, thank you so much for joining us. We have got a big show this week. We are continuing our coverage of Andor with Season 2. 3 more episodes to talk about on the drop. I can't promise that there'll be spiders or voids into darkness on this episode, but I can promise I've got one heck of a co-host with me for that. And of course, it is the one and only co-founder of the Fandom Podcast Network, the Raider nerd himself, Mr. Kevin Reitzel.
What is up? Excited. We're back on a Friday night again. And we got some more Andor. It's like these mini movies that are coming out. I'm really digging that.
Yeah, I just wish they would start about an hour earlier. Especially for us East Coasters.
You know, I was thinking about you because I actually didn't start it at 6 o'clock my time Pacific. I think I started closer to 7 because I had stuff I had to do. But I was just like, I wouldn't mind if this was like a 4 p.m., even 3 p.m., just so 6 o'clock p.m. Your guys. I know some people have to stay past midnight to watch these things because they get home and so yeah.
It gets a little rough the next day when the alarm goes off, but as I said earlier, you are watching Culture Clash here on the Fandom Podcast Network YouTube channel. And if you want more Fandom Podcast Network, scan the QR code that's on your screen right now. It's going to take you to our master feed at our for all of our audio podcasts at fpnet.podbean.com. Kevin, you test this out on a regular basis just to make sure it's working.
It is working. Yeah.
There seems to be no imperial interference going on with the transmissions. So
I tell you, the QR code just still blows me away on how that works. It's amazing.
Yeah. It's technology, crazy stuff. But we are here mainly tonight to talk about Andor Season 2 and our continuing coverage of it here on Culture Clash. But we have a lot of fun things to talk about here, too. I mean, Andor is great. Don't get me wrong, but there's other things happening, and that's what the Culture Clash is here to do. But Kevin, again, I'm still kind of blown away by this. The fact that they've given the runtimes on all the episodes, and we had 54-minute runtime on each of these episodes this week, and I felt it. I'm just going to say it right now. I felt those 54 minutes.
I'll be honest. I did not finish watching it the first night. I was really tired. I watched the first episode, and then I watched the second episode during my lunch break the next day, and then came home and watched the third episode and finished it up. I'm not complaining. It's just I just had personal fatigue from being busy and stuff like that. But like I said, these 54 minutes, it's over 2.5 something hours. It's crazy. Yeah. I love it. Yeah.
Well, guys, before we get into Andor, we got a lot of stuff happening on the Fandom Podcast Network. So let's talk about some things that have either coming soon or just arrived, because we got some fun stuff to discuss. Of course, too, we got to give a little love to our friends over at What a Piece of Junk, our Star Wars podcast. They're giving their angle on everything that is happening with Andor, and they're doing a great job, even if they might be consuming things on the Drunken Gungan. I've told them not to consume, but we're going to get to that a little later. Scott, I'm Botman. I'm looking at you at sniffing fuel cells, but we're going to have a discussion. And of course, too, our coverage here on Culture Clash with our previous episode covering the first 3 episodes last week. We didn't do that one live, but it is out there on the YouTube channel and on the podcast.
And Andor episode a year later, Sargonatina and Harvest.
But we do other fun things around here, including Time Warp. Look back at a year in movies, and we are in a new year, and it is the year that we are covering for Time Warp is 1990. A lot of big movies in 1990. Of course, January, February, March, just some highlights. We have Tremors. You're talking Hard to Kill, Revenge, Pretty Woman, Blind Fury, and of course, too, we just dropped our April Time Warp, and that one. You know what, Kevin? I said this last week. We always have one month that is a very heavy TV month, and April 1990 was definitely that when we're looking at Twin Peaks, Wings, and In Living Color. I know you love yourself some Jim Carrey, Fire Marshal Bill, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, that was a banger month, as we call it. That's what the kids call it, right? A banger month for TV, and April month of 1990. And also, I found a hidden gem of a TV series that did not last long, starred George Clooney with long hair riding a motorcycle. Tune in and check out the video to see more.
Yeah, the Lethal Mullet would be proud of that hairdo. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but hey,
And of course,
next month in May, though, man, we got some good stuff there. We got Back to the Future 3, Bird on a Wire, Firebirds, the Top Gun version of helicopters is coming out. So we're going to be discussing a lot of fun stuff in May of 1990.
come on, when you're talking Firebirds, you're talking about Nicolas Cage driving around with a woman's panties on his head. I mean, what more do you need to discuss?
God, I haven't seen that in a while. I'm looking for. I got the Blu-ray, so I'm excited.
And of course, too, the Union Federation, Kevin, you just wrapped up another big project over there.
Yeah, we are celebrating the Orville, and we just finished our 10-episode limited series. It's all out. Check it out. Marathon it, where each episode we discuss each main character and a few episodes, a couple episodes each about them. And then we also had special guest on a few of those, Alyssa Courtwright, who is a Orville cosplayer and a huge fan of Orville. She reached out. In the last episode, we discussed all of the special guest stars and Star Trek alumni that worked in front of the camera and behind the camera on the Orville.
It was a long list, I'm just saying. And we have a little twist to Couch Potato Theater lately. Thanks to, of course, our former co-founder, Mr. Norman Lau, and a suggestion of his. Kevin, can you be kind and rewind?
Norman said, hey, there could be a great little twist on the Couch Potato Theater if we talk about films that we did not like when they first came out or the public opinion didn't like, and reasons why they didn't get sequels and, were meant for something a lot bigger in the bigger picture of fandom in general and how things could have changed too. And so Norman gave us the idea. We took the ball and ran with it. Norman, of course, has been our co-host for these. And we also had, we just released John Carter, of course, and our good friend John Mosby came on for that. And then we also had Green Lantern previously. And coming out next, we're going to be discussing Be Kind Rewind, the A-Team from 2010. And Kyle, guess who I found out is a big fan of that movie while my wife and I were on our little anniversary weekend? That would be a friend of the show, Jennifer Walk, who's going to be joining us for another podcast.
Yeah, I heard about that. I mean, the only key thing with this A-Team is we have to find them because really nobody else can help.
This is true.
So I don't know if we have enough budget to hire them, but I'm going to see what I can do about that. But don't worry, even though we might be doing a little twist on Couch Potato Theater, it doesn't mean we aren't putting out regular versions of Couch Potato Theater. And we did one for us. This is a movie that we all love here at the Fandom Podcast Network. It's just a fun popcorn movie, one of those ones on cable that I think you pop in at any time and you just enjoy it. Kevin, you picked this one out. The Matthew McConaughey 2005 Sahara.
Celebrating its 20th anniversary as of this recording, and I know you were a fan of it. I know Lacey was a fan of it, and so we had to cover this movie. We had to discuss why it didn't get a sequel and the issues behind the scene with it, but also just celebrate the movie itself and all of the fun categories that we have. Which Couch Potato Theater, Sahara, out now. Check it out.
And we've been talking about this for a while, and we kind of put it off because we feel like summertime is really the time to dive into this. We are going to do a tribute to the great 80s film company Cannon. I mean, when you think 1980s, you got to think Cannon Films, putting out some of the fun but corny but crazy but all around entertaining films. And we've got a great selection of movies to talk about, but we're kicking things off, Kevin, with a Cannon movie classic. And we're actually making a special edition of Couch Potato for this because we're not doing one movie. Oh, no. We are doing two movies on an edition of Couch Potato Theater, Kevin.
It's a double feature like you used to do when you go to the drive-in back in the day. We're doing 1980s Cannon film retrospective and starting with American Ninja 1 and 2. And Kyle, I just got notified, I think our buddy Adam tagged me in a post, that one of the movies that we're going to be covering this year, Cobra, another Cannon film, is getting a special 4K release in July. So we're going to have to wait till that comes out first before we do that podcast.
We got some other fun ones to come off. And come on, you got to kick it off with a double Dudikoff. I mean, come on.
A double Dudikoff. I like that. That's good.
And two, you mentioned Jennifer Walk a little earlier. Her and your wife, the lovely Erin Gill, you've been working on a project with them.
Yeah, this actually was our friend Jennifer's idea. She hit us up last year saying, hey, in 85, movies are going to be 40 years old that came out in 85. And this year, we're going to be discussing a classic 80s film with a classic reveal at the end called Just One of the Guys. And if you know it, if you know, you know. And Jennifer is going to be on there along with actually, I think it's Lacey. Lacey's going to come on for that. And my wife did see it, though. She did like it, but it's going to be Lacey. And you're, of course, going to come on, too, if you want to, Kyle. So
yeah, I'm going to try to sneak on that because there's a discussion that needs to be had about what scene is the most paused scene from the 1980s. And it's either Just One of the Guys or Fast Times. And
there is a top 3 in there for sure.
And 2, we got to give out some love to our buddy Dan Hadley and all his companions over at the Type 40 Doctor Who podcast, because a new season of Doctor Who is here and they're covering it from every angle. Dan does a phenomenal job with Type 40. Find it on the feed. He's also got his own Type 40 feed out on YouTube where they do a lot of live shows. Check it out. He's got every angle of the Doctor covered, from the TARDIS to whatever else is going on with the new Doctor. And of course, that's on Disney Plus now, so you can check it out.
Yeah.
You can find it. So Type 40 is your home for everything that's happening in the Doctor Who universe. But you know what, Kevin? There's so many things going on. Summertime is here. We're going to get a lot more things happening, but summer movies are starting to roll out. And that means Marvel's going to start putting out movies. We had Captain America back in February. However, the latest Marvel movie just dropped yesterday. Kevin, you and I have seen it. We're going to be talking about that just a little bit here later, but Thunderbolts dropped, and you know we cover everything MCU on the Fandom Podcast Network, and we were going to be recording this weekend to come out next week our spoiler reaction show to Thunderbolts Asterix, and we will explain about the Asterix on the show. We're not going to spoil it here, but we are trying to get our band of Thunderbolts together here. I'm going to try not to turn into a dark, moody shadow person during that podcast. If I change my name to Bob,
watch it there.
Most people know that part already, but
yeah, Thunderbolt's gonna be recording that with as many friends as we can of a spoiler reaction show. So you're warning now, and that should be coming out probably Monday.
Yes, we're looking forward to that. Got a lot of fun stuff happening here with the Fandom Podcast Network, and it's always fun when we get a new Marvel movie out. But guys, one last thing too. This is a reaction show, so we're going to be talking about Andor season 2 and a few other things. So I just want to remind you, spoiler alert, from this point forward, we are in spoiler zone, guys, and you know what that means. We are going spoilers ahead with everything that we're going to be talking about. If you have not watched all the episodes of Andor yet, go watch them. Come back, join us here on YouTube or on the podcast. We're going to have a lot of fun here. So let's work on it, and let's get into a few things here. And Kevin, I'm feeling it in me. There's a little bit out there. I just need to let it go. So
let's news.
That's right. We got a little bit of news to cover outside of Andor. Yeah, the things happen in fandom. So there's been a couple interesting things drop. And Kevin, the first one is we have confirmed Roadhouse 2 is happening. Jake Gyllenhaal will be returning as his character from the remake of the original. Let me put it right. I get a little tongue tied.
The 2024 version came out last year around this time.
However, it will be having a new director, and it's not just any director. Oh no, Guy Ritchie is going to be directing Roadhouse 2. From the article, Roadhouse 2 is officially a go, with Guy Ritchie set to direct the sequel to the remake. The Hollywood Reporter reports that Ritchie will direct the follow-up to the 2024 film, and Jake Gyllenhaal set to return as Elwood Dalton. Okay, two things here, Kevin. One, I'm looking forward to this. I actually really like Jake Gyllenhaal's character of Elwood in this film, so I'm looking forward to seeing more of them. Guy Ritchie is doing a lot of stuff lately, though. It seems like something is dropping made by Guy Ritchie.
Yeah, if you haven't started watching his new series called Mobland, starring Pierce Brosnan and Tom Hardy in a current day mob scenario situation in London, check it out. The first 2 episodes are directed by Guy Ritchie, and he's writing and producing it as well. And so yeah, he's been a little busy. I'm all over this. I actually like I'm gonna call it the sequel. It's a remake. Remake of Roadhouse. Nothing will ever beat the original Roadhouse, of course, but you touched on something, Kyle, that I think is very important with that 2024 Roadhouse, the one that came out last year with Jake. Jake was really good. His version of Dalton, I think he tried to do something different with it, and for me, it succeeded. Do you know what I'm talking about? Where when he kind of like he talked a little more, but he seemed generally concerned about what he was going to do to people if they didn't back down.
Yeah, like I said,
he asked if their insurance was up to date before he went to town on him. Those things I found charming about Jake doing his thing.
Yeah, and that was the highlight for that movie for me, was his performance in that and his take on Dalton, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it. There's some other issues I had with that movie, but I'm all for him reprising this role.
I'm curious what angle that Richie's going to go with this, because I'm sure he's going to want to have some intake on the story as well, because he's so good at that type of thing, and I'm wondering, like, there's a good chance that this could actually get even nastier, with like maybe he loves mobs. So is there mob ties he's got to go with, if he does go mob, is he going to pull some favors with some old friends? Go dark, go deep, man. I'm all for it.
If Tom Hardy gets announced cast for this, Gyllenhaal better worry.
Oh man. Yeah.
I just want to throw this out too. Guy Ritchie, he's got a movie coming out on Apple Plus here in a few weeks. Fountain of Youth with Natalie Portman, which looks intriguing in its own right. So, and like I said, he's been a busy guy lately, busier than we've seen him in a long time.
And what I like, he's had a few stinkers, but overall, he has been pretty consistent for me. I like Guy Ritchie. I like his style. I like what he does. So, and he seems to bring people like back into the fold. What's his name from Jesus. From one of my favorite movies, Notting Hill, Hugh Grant. He seems to bring Hugh Grant back into everything, and he changes the way he looks, and it's awesome.
Well, our next piece of news is actually a little bit Marvel related. Normally we would do this on True Believers, but because our next episode we were dedicating to Thunderbolts, we're going to talk about it here on Culture Clash, and it has to deal with Jeremy Renner. It actually broke late yesterday. He did an interview and in this, the Hollywood Reporter picked this story up of why right now he's not part of Hawkeye season 2. And Disney has been wanting to do a Hawkeye season 2. Maybe they still go forward with Haley Steinfeld as Kate Bishop, but Renner has talked about it, and he said the reason why he's not doing it is they've only offered him half the pay from season 1. And in this interview, in this video interview, I think it's quite interesting because I got to give Renner some credit here. He took a little bit of the high road. He talked about how, on one hand, his body's probably going to thank him for not doing this because he's still healing from that horrific accident, and playing Hawkeye is definitely a toll on the physical body. But he talks about he doesn't throw Disney or Kevin Feige or Marvel Studios under the bus, but he's like, this is the accountants. This is the number crunchers, and they're telling them this is what they can afford. And so I give him a little credit for not just throwing everybody under the bus here. He's pointing to a specific thing, and I think he's right because Disney's making some adjustments. The economy is different, but for him not to get offered half, that's ridiculous, Kevin.
Agreed. And it's interesting. The closest thing he comes to maybe complaining about the situation is like, they only offered me half. Is it because I got ran over and maybe they consider I'm half, not half a man, but half,
half of what I used to be.
Half. Yeah. He phrased it pretty well. And he said, I did this for me. I said, no. And it's funny too, because like that was a while ago he did that. I mean, if anything, they should have paid him. They should have brought him on and paid him more because this is a big deal. And I just think of after everything and as a goodwill gesture, you should have offered him the same amount of money. He would have done it. He said he would have done it. And this kind of gets me thinking, Kyle, and we were talking before we started recording. So I just wanted to bring this to the table here. Is when Black Widow came out and Scarlett Johansson started to sue Disney because they decided to push the streaming put streamer of the film right up when it was being released in theaters, which cut into the profits that was promised to Scarlett Johansson via contract. And that if people could only see it in the theaters, they would have made more money, and she would have made more money. I know, and I think Kevin Feige came to her.
Yeah, Kevin Feige was very much on her side. In fact, Disney just wanted to put it out on streaming, and that was it. And he was adamant that no, Marvel movies go in the theater. That's it, period. And so they finally relented and did a simultaneous release, one of the first actual simultaneous release films during the COVID period.
But the simultaneous release was the issue anyway with her, because she was supposed to get points and money on the back end of that thing. And so I know they settled out of court and they're all good now. But I hope something comes up and they I hope there's some type of pressure, media pressure on Disney to go, you know what, we really need Hawkeye back into the fold here. Even if it's only for a little bit, just pay him his money, man. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, this is stupid. He's one of the originals. You don't have what you have now without Jeremy Renner. Give him what he deserves.
And shout out to Kat, our buddy Kat, friend of the show. Hawkeye is one of his favorite. His favorite Avenger, just in general.
Yeah, and it's one of my favorite Disney Plus Marvel shows. So get your act together, who over there at those studios, and just cut the check.
Cut it. So get him on there.
Okay, guys. Well, that's going to kind of wrap up the news segment for now. So let's get into our main topic here on Culture Clash. That's right, guys. It's time to talk Andor Season 2. We had 3 more episodes drop. Episode 4, Ever Been to Ghorman. Episode 5, I Have Friends Everywhere. And Episode 6, What a Festive Evening. So let's talk about what's happening in Andor. We are in Season 2, Mr. Reitzel. We just keep on going. We got 3 episodes once again dropping. Would you care to help us out and kick us off by telling us about the plot synopsis of Episode 5?
Actually, Episode 4, Ever Been to Ghorman.
Episode 4, you're right. Yeah. One last time, spoiler alert. Here, guys.
Spoiler alert.
Last chance. Last chance. Okay, Kevin, take us into Andor.
All right. Episode 4, Ever Been to Ghorman. 1 year after the incident at Mina Rao, Cassian and Bix have become active operators for Luthen and hideout on Coruscant. Though Bix is still upset by visions of Gorst, the doctor that tortured her. On Ghorman, the Empire begins building an armory. Cyril, with Dedra and Partagaz's backing, takes up a position on Ghorman, pretends to be sympathetic to the rebels' cause to feign being successfully recruited. Upon learning from Jung that Dedra is secretly working on the planet, Luthen sends Cassian to assess the rebels. Wilman is tasked with teaching one of Saw's men named Paluti how to work a rhydonium extractor as part of a fuel heist. Mon Mothma unsuccessfully attempts to rally support to kill the renewal of a bill giving broad power to the ISB. Right.
Yeah.
Can you hit the next one there, Kyle?
Yeah, if you take over the other set of controls of the podcast, I will give us this plot synopsis for Episode 5. I Have Friends Everywhere. So that's what they tell me at any rate. Clea learns that Skoldoon intends to search his gallery room after one of his pieces turns out to be a forgery, threatening to expose a bug she planted in the room and forcing her to extract it during his upcoming investiture party. Andor connects with the Ghorman rebels and learns they plan to intercept a weapon shipment, but he deems them too inexperienced and shoots down the plan, much to their frustration. Cyril reports back to Coruscant with news of the heist, with Partagaz and Dedra agreeing to let it go through to empower and control the rebels. Saw kills Pluty after learning that he's a traitor and instead has Wilmon work on the extractor on the heist.
Yeah.
Kevin, let's switch it up again. You tell us what happens in Episode 6.
All right, Episode 6, What a Festive Evening. Cassian insists that Ghorman's rebels are unprepared and argues with Luthen upon learning that he attempted to persuade Bix to return to action. Luthen chastises him for his short-sighted vision and instead sends Vel and Cinta to help the Ghorman rebels pull off the heist. Vel and Cinta fully reconcile and rekindle the romance. The heist is successful, but Cinta is accidentally killed by one of the fighters, much to Vel's despondence. At the Investiture party, Krennic and Mothma calmly debate. Meanwhile, Clea managed to extract the bug using Jung as a distraction. Bix and Cassian break into Gorst's new office and kill him using his own torture method and walk away like badasses as an explosion behind them goes off, Kyle.
Yeah, I am. So we have 3 more episodes that dropped, Kevin. Instant reactions from there.
There we go. I like the way things are plotting. I like what's going on here. And, you know, we'll get more into a little bit of each character's detail here, but I'm digging the time jump. I don't have a problem with the pacing. I know some people have, and we'll talk about that because I'm paying attention to a lot of what's going on, Kyle. I'm paying attention not only to the details, the cool, beggar lady with a space dog, little things like that, and sets and stuff like that. But I'm also kind of paying attention to the way characters are looking at each other and reacting to each other and looking at each other and stuff like that. But I'm also looking at the big picture of what's happening with the Empire regarding the ISB, mentions of the Emperor, the resistance that's slowly starting to build. But what we're doing is we're getting pockets of resistance that aren't all organized with each other. And it's interesting to see how that's happening. And specifically what we mentioned in the last episode here, is that Andor, he is now a very experienced operative, spy, mercenary, killer, whatever you want to put on there. And he's looking at these rebels like, you're not doing this right. You're basically stealing from where you're living. And you're trying to send a message to the Empire that you can't do this. Empire's going to come back and bite bad on these guys. And I assume we're going to see that. And so he's kind of, that's why he kind of butts head with Luthen. But Luthen's still doing Luthen stuff. I love how, he has the Luthen hair for the parties. And then he pulls that off. And then he's, he has to park a ship way far away and do his little flying stuff. And I love what's going on with Dedra and Cyril. It's there's a lot to take in, and then of course we get Saw back too, and we'll talk about it later. But we also get a new version of Bail Organa.
Yeah.
What about you? What do you think? What is your first reactions?
So I really felt like these 3 episodes were a lot about moving the pieces on the chessboard, really setting up people in positions, starting to move things a little bit forward. But especially the first of these 2 episodes of these 3, it was really about setting the stage. And there was a lot of political things going on, a lot of background kind of stuff. And then obviously the final episode, you start getting a little bit more action. You start seeing the events happen on Ghorman, which I think is going to lead into what is going to be, I think, the next 3 episodes, a very powerful and very violent 3 episodes coming up. But here, what I loved about these 3 episodes was the actual character development, because we see a lot of characters take a jump in these 3 episodes. We see a more experienced Cassian, and you talked about that, and how he's seeing how this rebel faction through his eyes and making judgments. And we start seeing even him having conflict with Luthen over a few things, including not only their opinions about the situation on Ghorman, but things with Bix too, that I think we could be heading to a Cassian Luthen butting heads that could not go so well for one of them. I don't know, but it just seems like they're kind of both starting to diverge a little bit on their past, but we'll see how that plays out. But you see Cyril stepping up. He has the greatest moment of his life. I mean, we see the mechanics of the Empire and how they're like, no, we're going to let them succeed. We're going to build up their conference a little bit, because when we do take them down, it's going to break them. And those are the kind of things that are going on through their head. We're seeing things with Luthen. We see Saw return, and leading to one of the most unexpected moments in these 3 episodes, when he kills the one guy who he brought in to be taught how to do this procedure out of nowhere. it just shocked me. I mean,
Yeah.
and I think about it. It's Saw. You expect him to do something.
Saw knows how
out
to
of the
sniff
box.
out traitors. That's for darn sure.
Yeah. If he even was a traitor, maybe he wanted the other guy and planted the device on this guy. Who knows with Saw?
No,
I mean,
I think he was a traitor for sure, and he sniffed that part out. What I'm worried about. What's weird about the way this is set up, and don't get me wrong, I love the 3-episode drop because it feels like you're watching a movie, but then you also kind of feel the stuff that happens, within these, because this was 3 years before the Battle of Yavin, and there's some stuff kind of hanging out there. Like Bix is obviously become a drug addict now, and she's depressed, and because she's probably self-medicating from the torture that she had, and then there's the issue of the guy that saw her face, and Andor had to kill him, and it's interesting to see where her character's going. I wasn't expecting it the way it did, but I like the way that the episodes rounded out of her hopefully finding some solace and getting the guy that was responsible for hurting her, basically, and giving him literally a dose of his own medicine.
I know you want to go into some of the characters for yourself too, Kevin, but there a couple things. We saw a couple familiar faces return from season 1, which I was excited about because I like those characters. But who stood out for me as far as the characters in these 3 episodes, and it's a character that I almost kind of think that she took a jump. She's kind of getting up there to the Luthen level herself, and that's Clea. There was some great stuff with Clea over these 3 episodes and I really think they did a lot with that character in these 3 episodes.
You're talking about Luthen's assistants or friend, yeah, the one that works at Luthen's antique / trophy place.
Yeah. She's really jumped her up big time in these episodes.
She's a badass, dude. I wouldn't want to meet her in a dark alley if I was her enemy. She also looks great, the way that they dress her hair and her style, and she's got a certain resolve in her expression. I feel like if something happens to Luthen, she could step right into his shoes and lead and organize people against the Empire. She's badass. You're spot on about bringing her to the table there.
What about you, Kevin? Was there anybody else that you talked about? Several characters that kind of got elevated over this arc. Who stood out for you, really, that in these characters? That
obviously for me, it's Dedra. Because she's in a situation now where she's with Cyril, and Denise Go, who plays her, is phenomenal. I know we've joked we'd like to see a sitcom or something with these two as a couple, but there's a situation right now that I see brewing where you're wondering is one of them going to make the turn to the rebellion, and they're playing it quite well that maybe one of them will or maybe one of them won't, and that she is getting she's getting orders, obviously, from I'm sorry, what's his name? He is Major Portagus,
that's right.
her boss, basically,
Mm-hmm.
the leader of the ISB guy. He stepped up for me as well, Kyle, because of the moments that he had, especially the scene where he has them all around, and then the one rebel sympathizer who is an ISB agent, secretly.
Yeah,
he comes up with that thing like, we're arresting too many people and we're not being able to, our resources are being spread thin. And the fact that Major Portagus understands what he's saying, and then he basically says in so many words, a good idea for bringing this to the table, because that's what these meetings are for, But I love him. He's a great Imperial officer. And I was reminded, talking with Erin, that my wife, that he played that religious cult leader in Game of Thrones.
Oh yeah, that's right.
The ones that were in charge of the shame and all that kind of stuff, and he got his up and comings, basically. But he's such a good actor. I'm really digging Anton Lesser in this, and I'm just the whole thing between him and Dedra just fascinates me, because he sees her as a riser and he's giving her that opportunity. And he also sees her tie to Krennic and the whole job and stuff, and is important that she gets noticed. And What I like about Denise's portrayal of Dedra is that she's so even keel in front of everyone. She knows how to be the perfect Imperial officer, because I think not only does she believe in it, but she knows how not to show her hand in her expressions and really do a lot of observing in those meetings, which is great in the first two arcs first arc where Krennic pulls her aside and talks to her. I love that part of the story.
I think that's one of the most intriguing things for me with the final episodes for Andor is the Cyril Deidre, because it can go one of several ways, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how they play that out. I have my theories. I'm not going to say right now because I want to wait and see how some things.
Yeah, I'm trying not to speculate too much either, so I'm with you there.
So, but guys, I've dug in. We got a little trivia for Andor, so let's talk some Star Wars trivia. Okay, Mr. Wright, so I'm going to have you help me out here because I pulled up some Star Trek. Too many shows going on. I pulled up some Star Wars Andor trivia. I'm going to hear about it in the comments. I can hear it now, but some fun things. And Kevin, one of those things ties into even back with the Clone Wars with one of our favorites in Saw Gerrera. You want to fill us in on that?
Yeah. So our first bit of trivia here is the Onderon Juggle Saw Gerrera. Sorry, excuse me. Let me start that again. The Onderon Jungles, Saw Gerrera's Star Wars history. Saw Gerrera shares with Wilman bits of his past on his homeworld of Onderon. As a young man, Saw was part of a group of freedom fighters working to liberate their homeworld from separatist control, as seen in the Clone Wars. However, he shares more of his past when he was forced to work in a slave camp and was exposed to toxic rhydonium fumes. Now, what was interesting about this, Kyle, is that it kind of explains a little more maybe about, why he has to wear what he wears and stuff like that. But what I also liked about that is I remember that story arc pretty well, not completely with the Clone Wars, but the thought of Onderon being brought into Clone Wars, I thought was a great thing anyway, because this goes back to the legend days of Onderon, where there was the Tales of the Jedi, the early Tales of the Jedi. I remember listening to those audiobooks, and there was a character or two from Onderon, and there was some stuff that was going on in Onderon. So I love the connection that was pulled out of legends that went into the Clone Wars and then continued as Saw's homeworld.
Yeah. I like what they're doing with Saw. I'm very curious to see where that storyline is going as well. But got a little bit more trivia too, Kevin, because you know what? Oathkeeper, the on-screen debut for a key Senate leader. Several new senators are inducted into the Imperial Senate in Andor Season 2, presumably all loyal to Palpatine. The idea is hammered home by the first on-screen debut of the Oathkeeper, a member of the Imperial Senate who traditionally opens sessions in the Senate chambers. Coincidentally, he also looks like a lot like one of the prophets from the Halo franchise. And I so agree with that. If you look at him, I'm like, when did I turn into Halo here? But I like the fact that we're getting some new senators and we're seeing some new races as well.
Not just that, but there's like this kind of, I'm not going to say religious, but more of a faith approach to the new empire, and the emperor himself, and that he does this chant, and everyone in the rotunda, Senator Rotunda, is repeating it. But then you just kind of see like Mon Mothma barely mouthing it and going, "Yay!" Yeah.
I wasn't supposed to be here today. Well, Kevin, one of the cool things about Andor too, there's some great set trivia that floats around out there, and I found a couple interesting ones. I want you to fill in people about one of these scenes because it ties into Pinewood Studios.
Yeah, if you're not watching the YouTube video, make sure you check it out because we got some great pictures here showcasing this trivia and, of course, the episode in general. So one of the things I'm going to start off by saying one of the most amazing things about Andor is the set decorations, the set pieces, the props, and they're just killing it here. In this picture here of the outside area of Ghorman here, especially a really great shot of Cyril going to work, is fantastic. The over 500-foot long outdoor Ghorman set was built on the same Pinewood Studios backlot that once housed the Jakku Village and Maz's castle ruin sets for The Force Awakens, Jeddah City for Rogue One, and the Kessel Landing area for Solo, a Star Wars story.
There's some serious history going on there.
Yes,
And that's not
yes.
the only interesting piece of set trivia I found, because I found this very interesting. Of course, Saw Gerrera's hidden location, which, Kevin, I don't know about you, but it also feels a little bit like the Rebel base from Force Awakens. It kind of has a little bit of similar look to it.
No, the Last Jedi, when they're having to escape it before it gets bombed, or destroyed by Kylo Ren's pursuing forces. That's what that reminded me of. I feel like the Resistance went back to this place knowing that it was an old rebel fort and repurposed it. I could be wrong, but it looks like it, because
it looks like it. Yes,
it's a similar location, right?
Yeah. Well, in this case, Greenham Column, the shooting location for Saw Gerrera's base in Andor Season 2, was once a Royal Air Force airfield and station.
Now, if you look at it, you can see why, because it's got these hangars that are kind of hidden underneath these green mounds. So back in the day when the Royal Air Force was doing stuff, from aerial photographs, you can't really see the planes and stuff because they're hidden underneath. And I seem to remember a story, Kyle, when I might have been Force Awakens, like towards the ending, maybe, where that's or no, it was during the middle when they land there and Han had been killed or whatever like that. But I seem to remember that there was a guy that was flying a helicopter and he came across the set below and he saw the Millennium Falcon and he took some pictures and released it, if I remember correctly. Is that what happened?
Yeah, I think that's something along those lines, I believe.
Yeah, and I believe that is this location, because this is before I get, either The Last Jedi, because I felt like it was a Force Awakens thing, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Well, Kevin, here we're covering everything Andor. Not only do we have some trivia, we have a little Easter eggs. These guys are so cute. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But you want to help me out with some Easter eggs? Because the first one, this is not a way I want to go. I'm just saying.
So yeah, Kyle, you found this. This is a good one here. The first Easter egg is, it will, quote, "It will only feel like forever," repeating Gorst's own rules. On a mission to eliminate Dr. Gorst following the reveal that his program was going to expand beyond the ISB, Bix Caleen gets her revenge as the one who kills the Imperial scientist using the same words and horrible torture device he used on her in Andor Season 1 before she and Cassian blow up the facility they left him in. And I love that chilling moment in the beginning of, I think it was the first arc of this story, maybe it was the second, where she wakes up, but she's seeing things because she's being haunted by this. She's like holding the blaster out, but you get to see Borsk, the actor Borsk, like kind of like replaying this role. And then
beginning of episode 4.
Episode 4, yeah. And then Andor has to come over and wake her up basically, but she's reliving this nightmare, especially of the guy that died and stuff. And it was a great one. This guy plays a great sleazy bad guy.
Well, Kevin, I'm just going to say it. This was some Game of Thrones revenge level shit.
Yes, dude. Oh, yes. That was one of the best things about Game of Thrones is when they got even, man. They got even good. Well played.
Well, next up in the Easter eggs, Saw's Black X-Wings, an impressive partisan squadron. Having been featured in the background of Andor Season 1, Saw Gerrera's squadron of X-Wings with unique black accents is shown taking off and ready for action in Andor Seasons 2, episodes 4 through 6. This was so cool to see, Kevin. I love the look of this, and I love the look of these X-Wings.
Great effects here, and it just shows you how organized Saw Gerrera is and how well armed they are, and I love it.
Now, the next Easter egg, Kevin, I'm going to have you read, but there's a thing about this that I think is very important, but I'm going to let you fill people in on this Easter egg first.
I have thoughts about this.
Yeah.
So the next bit here is, the Emperor has no idea. A widespread and false galactic belief. The misguided belief that the ISB is running a shadow organization, that the Emperor has no idea what's happening in his name, comes from familiar sentiments that were presented in the original novelization of Star Wars: A New Hope.
Okay, first of all, I'm just going to say the Emperor always knows. Don't be. But this, I think what's kind of interesting about this, the fact that they bring this up is how much the galaxy is naive to how powerful the Emperor really is. And I
Okay.
think that's kind of an important thing here.
You know, it's interesting. I heard a take about this, and I kind of believe there's some truth to this. Yes, the Emperor does know most of it anyway. He doesn't know everything, right? But what he does know, that when he finds the right people in the situations that, first of all, crave power and are in a situation to get shit done, no matter how, without going too far to where it steps on his power, he's going to basically let them do what they do best. And I feel like when it comes to the ISB, they have a certain job to, first of all, they're running the spy network, but they're also kind of like what do you call it? The internal affairs of police officers as well. They keep track of all of the other officers, making sure they're in check. And if there's people that aren't up to making the right decisions, meaning like being as ruthless as they need to be, being as forward thinking as they need to be, then the ISB and their crew will take them out. And I think that is a directive that the Emperor is making sure that they stick to, even if he knows that some of these underlings might be overstepping certain things. As long as the end outcome is what he wants, then he'll deal with, if anyone is getting way too much out of hand, he'll send Vader to do what he needs to do best, or Tarkin will to do what he does best. Like, I kind of get the feeling like he told Tarkin that, like, look, Krennic is doing Krennic stuff here. He went behind my back. I went to Vader. Go ahead and step on his toes and take some credit, you know? And if Tarkin did that by himself first, I'm sure the Emperor's fine as long as he gets his weapon done. What do you think?
I agree, but I'm still going with, when it comes to the ISB, the Emperor knows exactly what the hell is going on. Yeah, he doesn't stay in power for that long without knowing what's happening in his own house. So yeah. Next up on the Easter eggs, a familiar face to Star Wars fans.
I didn't catch this one, Kyle. Thank you for finding this. I'm going to give you full credit on this.
Before Cassian leaves for Ghorman, he's given a fake identity and persona from an off-screen voice via an earpiece. The voice just so happens to be Sam Witwer, who's best known for being the voice of Darth Maul in the Clone Wars, as well as a shore trooper in Andor Season 1. Witwer has done multiple background voices across multiple Star Wars projects. Kevin, I'm going to say this now. Could Sam Witwer be the secret MVP of Star Wars in the modern era?
Oh God, yeah. And he's always on Rebel Force Radio. He's great friends with those guys, and they have him on whenever. And he's a great interview. And plus, he's going to be voicing the new animated Darth Maul Shadow something. What is it called? Shadow.
Oh, I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Yeah, but it's the new. It's the time frame when he becomes power of the criminal underworld before, during this Solo era, before he eventually meets his demise on Tatooine against, of course, Obi-Wan. And Sam Witwer is not only a great guy, he's a great voice actor, and he can do a lot of things. And I feel like, Kyle, you're right. I think he is an MVP, and I think the fact that he is now doing his voicing now, this new animated series as Darth Maul, because he was kind of promised some stuff later on. If you listen to some recent interviews with him, like, you're not promised, but like saying, hey, we're probably going to have you come in and do this with Maul, blah, blah, blah. But now you're getting your full on series. And he's great. I think he's a wonderful guy. And he's also fantastic with the fans, dude.
Yeah, he is one of the best ambassadors Star Wars has going right now.
Well said.
I'm so glad that he gets his props.
Well said.
Guys, with that's going to wrap up the trivia and the Easter eggs. So let's kind of get into some of our main Andor topic discussions. And Kevin, I want to start off real quick with the cast and crew because they were phenomenal this week. We talked about a lot of the character development in this, but for a cast that is spread out across so many storylines, they are just nailing it across the board.
Faye Marseille, who plays Vel, is really good in this, and I also I liked her when she was dressed up at the party scenes as well. But with her and Cinta getting kind of back together again, and then Cinta dying, was a big scene. I mean, and just seeing Ben Mendelsohn just being smarmy again with his power and his friend, but then you see like Genevieve O'Reilly as Mon Mothma, just like playing it chill with him, but knowing that she despises him. It was great. There's a lot of people to call her. Forrest Whitaker, my God, comes in, just drops a few scenes, and then he's out. Hopefully, we'll see more of him. Kyle, what about you?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Oh, the cast is phenomenal. Obviously, I'm with you on Faye. She is phenomenal as that character. I'm so glad to see her back. Genevieve O'Reilly is a tour de force in the show. I mean,
dude, not only is she beautiful, but she is just killing it on all sides of her aspect of her character. You're right.
Yeah.
I did want to give one shout out. Alistair McKenzie, who plays Perrin, her husband, because that's an arranged marriage. First season, kind of one dimensional a little bit, but I feel like they've bonded a little more as time's gone on, and they've kind of become more of a team, so to speak. And I really liked season 2 is that the character of Perrin is getting fleshed out a little bit more. I've noticed. What about you?
I like that too, and it feels like they both kind of see the writing on the wall, what's happening here, and it's better to join forces and work together than have this internal strife. So I'm really like what they're doing. So great point on that, Kevin. I gotta give you a shout out of that. But guess what, guys? We do have a few hot topics and points we want to get into. And Kevin, I'm going to let you handle this first one because you brought this up, and trust me, everybody's talking about this. A little recasting for Andor.
Yeah, I've heard both, pros and cons regarding this topic. Some people like it, some people don't, some people are indifferent. So yeah, Andor season 2 replaces Jimmy Smits with Benjamin Bratt as Senator Bail Organa, aka Princess Leia's adoptive dad. And we got word of this before the episode dropped. The news was out there already. And this is from Yahoo Entertainment. It says, why did Andor replace Jimmy Smits with Benjamin Bratt as Senator Bail Organa? Benjamin Bratt makes his Star Wars debut as Senator Bail Organa in Andor Season 2, Episode 6. Now, there's no clear reason why Andor recast the role of Senator Bail Organa, especially since Jimmy Smits just reprised his role from Rogue One and the prequel trilogy a few years ago in Disney Plus's Obi-Wan Kenobi. It could have come down to scheduling conflicts, or maybe it had been a creative choice for showrunner Tony Gilroy. Nevertheless, it's important that Senator Bail Organa shows up at this point in Andor Season 2. So much of Andor Season 1 and 2 has fixated on how the Empire's crushing fascist rule is designed to overwhelm and isolate people. Up until now, Mon Mothma has been depicted as the only senator working alongside Luthen to topple the Empire. Now, halfway through the second season, Mon has an ally in the Senate. Sure, she's leaving the party she's about to join, but the key is that Bail Organa is in the mix. There's no way to know if it is simply a cameo or if Benjamin Bratt will be back as Senator Bail Organa, but the character is key to the events that will lead to Princess Leia's role in the rebellion. Kyle, what is your thoughts? And then I'll give mine.
If you're going to do a recasting like this, and I want to be clear about something, because there's a lot of people have been upset about this. Jimmy Smith has come out and said, I wanted to do this, but I had scheduling conflicts. And he's been very supportive of Benjamin Bratt in the role. They're good friends. They've been friends for a long time. We are going to see more of Bail Organa in Andor, because you do not recast this role unless you're going to have something bigger with him besides a little cameo. If you have a little cameo, you just leave it out. I'm sorry. You don't recast. They have to have plans for Bail Organa, and it's Hollywood. And sometimes, guess what? Things just happen, especially because of writer strikes and delays that happened with filming of Andor. Jimmy just wasn't available. And as much as he wants to return to the role, sometimes it can't work out that way. I think he tried everything in his power to do it, and it just couldn't work out. It couldn't work out. So I'm not going to punish Benjamin Bratt for this recasting. I know a lot of people don't like it, but Benjamin Bratt is a phenomenal actor in his own right, and I think he could bring some leverage and clout to Bail Organa in his own way, and hopefully Jimmy Smits is able to return to the role at a later date.
He had a small role in Doctor Strange. Remember that? Mm-hmm. His character was eventually killed, but he was one of the guys that went up to the temple and got healed and stuff, and kind of gave a little guidance to Doctor Strange and stuff like that. And so it's kind of funny, that he's still within the Disney family, I guess, so to speak. If anyone is going to replace Jimmy Smits, I think this is a great choice. Both are great actors, and I don't have a problem with Benjamin at all. I think that this is a good transition. I'm not one of those people like no one can ever play that character ever again, blah blah blah. I'm not one of those people. I'm sorry. I like to see other people's interpretations of these characters if there's a rhyme and a reason for it, not just to do it. And whether Jimmy Smith couldn't do it or what was it? Have you heard any updates? So what did you say that he
doing a TV show right now, which caused a scheduling conflict for filming that they just could not work around.
Right. Yeah. So I mean that I'm fine, that stuff like that happens, but he could always return, and I've seen like memes, like first we had fake Wedge and now we have fake Organa, and I thought that was being a little mean, but I get the humor behind it and stuff. I don't have a problem with Kyle. I love both of these, and what's more importantly, people, is the character Bail Organa must continue no matter who's available or not. You gotta keep the story moving on because his character is crucial for Andor.
I will promise you this: they didn't consult Terrence Howard about this.
Some people learn their lessons, maybe didn't. I don't know.
Well, now topic 2. Last week there was a pretty dark thing that happened in Andor, and a lot of people were talking about it. It seems like they're carrying a little bit of dark theme in this week's 3 episodes too, and with a theme of don't do drugs, kids, even in the Star Wars universe, because we've got a couple of things of drug use basically in this. We obviously with Saw Gerrera with his infatuation of sniffing starship fuel. Saw Gerrera's breathing in the toxic fumes of bridonium seemingly borders on addiction, as such as could very well be why he has that breathing device as we saw in Rogue One. Might be why he's a little more loopy than normal as every time we see him too. Yeah. I'm just saying, you're killing a few brain cells there, Saw.
It's not like that poor guy in what was it, the casino, or what was it, Attack of the Clones, where he was trying to sell Obi-Wan some death sticks, and Obi-Wan's like, you want to go home and rethink your life, and but it's one of those things where like he was obviously affected when he was a prisoner, and he had to ingest this stuff, and it's taken its toll, so he's had to wear some stuff and do, but it's like, imagine if Jeddah hadn't been destroyed by a let's see if the Death Star works blast. What more things that Saw Gerrera could have done?
I just hope he didn't. I just really hope he didn't sniff too much Bugullet. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's because of his drug use that he's able to really kind of communicate with Bugullet. I was kind of like, are we going to see Bugullet in Andor? I hope we see Bugullet. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't the only one. Yep. He wasn't the only one, though, who had a drug issue in this episode, because we talked about it a little bit earlier. We see Bex using drugs, and then though we see the substance, we don't hear it referred to by name. So what could it possibly be?
Was it like drops? I think they said like
it was like eye drop she was using. Yeah. In the non-canon Star Wars legends, there's a variety of psychoactive materials you can encounter, from Alderaan snuff to Xenothon, but recreational substances are usually referred to as spice, usually mined on the planet Kessel. Yes, spice was in fact inspired by Dune. The most expensive variant of spice, however, was glitter stem, which was harvested through the webs of energy spiders, not unlike the spiders of Ghorman. As of episode 6,
this is pulled back from. I love this, Kyle. This is pulled back from Legends, man. Yeah. I love this story. The glitter stem, and I remember the spiders.
Yeah. Of course, as of episode 6, it's still unclear what the blue liquid Bix is taking in Andor season 2, but we have some clues of what it is based on the symptoms it's supposed to treat, as well as its side effects. Some guesses include death sticks, booster blue, and voltamine. So, just don't do drugs, kids. That's what we're gonna say.
You couldn't help feel bad for her, Bix, though, because she's they're safe, but there's just something, and I hope that what happens at the end of that 3rd episode of this arc, that she gets some resolve and maybe get some help, or is able to cut it cold turkey. So I don't know. We'll see.
Well, let me put it this way: I don't think it's ending well for her in the in this show, but yeah. Hey, real quick too, I didn't catch this, but our good friend Din dropped in with a quick yo.
What's up, Dan? Good to see you, brother. He's heading to a gig, I think. So
Yeah, he
thanks
said
for
he had a
checking
gig
in.
tonight, but
Yeah,
you know,
gig well,
F105.
brother. Keep it
Yeah.
going.
But Kevin, I have one more topic I want to get into. We kind of talked about this a little bit with 3 episodes dropping. It can be a bit of a long watch, and especially this week, I want to bring up the topic because the people have been talking about this a little bit online, and I saw some reactions as people were watching the episodes this week. Is Andor moving maybe a little bit too slow for some people? This set of 3 episodes, especially the first 2, dealt with a lot of political issues and setup. Is it moving a bit too slow, even with the episodes dropping 3 at a time? Now, obviously, there was a lot of setup and leading to the events of the 3rd episode of these 3. But Kevin, I talked to more than one person personally and saw some things online where people felt like we needed to kind of pick up the pace just a little bit here. We were felt like we were spinning our wheels just a little bit here, spending a little bit too much time on the political side of things. What do you think? Because I'm not going to say they're wrong. I think that there's some point to that, but I think in this case, when we got the payoff in the 3rd episode for this week, it made more sense. But yeah, when you're asking people to almost sit for 2.5 to 3 hours, it felt like they could have dropped a little bit more action in between there, or something to kind of just get the blood pumping a little bit.
I get it, because in the first season, the first 3 arcs were the was it the Aldana heist, right? You know, where they get the Imperial payroll. Even though we didn't get that payoff till the 3rd part of the heist, it was moving a little slow first too, especially week by week. There's a lot of bit about that. And then we had the middle arc where he goes to prison, you know, and you know, we meet Andy Serkis's character, and then it rounds out with the final 3. So you know, I get it, I understand, but I think what you need to do, my recommendation is, I don't think it's necessarily running slow. There's just a lot of character and plot buildup, and it's being done in a massive scale for a TV show. And I think that, you know, I would recommend just sitting back and taking it in a little bit more. I would also recommend, Kyle, I didn't plan on watching these last 3 separately at different times, but I kind of did that just because I had to watch the first one. I was tired. I didn't want to watch the other 2 and fall asleep. I hate doing that. So I kind of took time in between 2 days and watched the 3 instead of marathoning it. And I got to tell you, that kind of helped a little bit, at least for me. So, and also too, I really appreciate all of the acting with the different characters and the characters that are, you know, they shoot the scenes together, and you're seeing who's working with who. And, you know, it's, you know, why did Luthen go see Bix, you know, and then with Andor finding out, he like gets paranoid, you know, what's going on. There's all these little things to appreciate. Yes, we're not getting these big action scenes like we did kind of like a little bit in this with the heist with the guns and all that kind of stuff. So it's like my suggestion is maybe find a different way to watch it, or if you are going to watch all 3 back to back to back, pause for a moment and just kind of look at what you just watched. I also recommend one last thing, Kyle, is that when you go into the 2nd part or the 3rd part and it starts showing you previously on the episodes, watch those, because sometimes so much happens and you forget because they're tying in on certain stuff that you need to pay attention to going into the new episode.
Din just said, good to see you guys too. I just want to say, Din, have a great show tonight. Break a leg.
Yeah, buddy.
So, so I want to weigh on this just briefly here, because I agree with a lot of what you said, Kevin. And I think it's kind of there's a twofold problem here. One, and looking at it from the podcaster side, where we're trying to jump on this and get reactions out quickly, you want to watch all 3 episodes at once. And I think that can be a little dragging at points when you're trying to absorb everything. And especially in a show like Andor, where there's a lot of heavy things going on. There's a lot of little things you've got to try and notice.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's hard to go back and do a rewatch. If you're like, for us, it came out Tuesday. We're broadcasting live about it now. it's hard to find time to go rewatch 3 hours of programming when there's other things. Life happens, other things are going on.
Especially
So
for you guys on the East Coast when it starts at 9.
Yeah. So you've got that, and I think with Andor too, I almost kind of wonder, would we have been better off with 2 episodes at a time drops? It's hard to say.
Now,
Again, I'm just
now with
it's
12
just,
total, now with 12 total episodes, and especially since they're sticking to the same thing of the first season, is there's a story arc told in 3 stories.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I'm just throwing out thoughts here. I don't think it's going to be a problem with the next 2 arcs, because I think a lot of stuff they're going to be much more active and they're going to be much more busy. This was really the arc to set up a lot of pieces. And I think we hit the next 2, people aren't going to have this problem with it. I think this is going to be the arc where we say, kind of like the first arc for Andor. There's so much setup. This was a setup arc for Andor. The first arc was kind of to catch us up where everybody was at, what was going on. This was the setup to put the pieces in place. I think the pieces are in place. Things are going to ramp up greatly over the next 6 episodes. And I think we're going to be in for a wild ride. So I think we're good there. But Kevin, I do want to ask you one thing. Any fun moments from these 3 episodes?
I briefly mentioned one, and I love seeing Star Wars animals. And I love the little, I don't know if she was a beggar lady or just someone that was kind of down on their luck. And she had the little space dog, and you could tell, and the space dog was kind of leaning against her while she was petting him. And I love that scene. And I also love the Ghorman pigeon just flying around doing pigeony stuff. I don't know if those are real birds or if they were digitized, changed in post, but those are the fun moments for me, because let's be honest, it's hard to choose a fun moment from a very serious TV series. So I'm just going to pick at it from a fan point of view of, I love animals in Star Wars, and I got a little bit of that. What about you?
There's 2 moments. There's 2 moments, and it's 2 lines dropped. In episode 4, when we first see them listening to Cyril and his conversations, oh my God, the mother is a monster.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was just a great line out of nowhere. And
that's a good one.
And at the end of the episode where they find the listening device and pull the listening device and they're walking out, it's like, yeah, too bad I couldn't kill Krennic too.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like the underground, and what I appreciated about the underground though is that it gave you definitely a French resistance during World War II vibe. But I feel like Andor, I was kind of feeling exactly what Andor was feeling. It was like, these people aren't doing it right. If you're going to rip off the Empire, you got to get out of there, and you got to move that stuff out of the way, use it on another planet, get it out of there. And if somehow, there's a lot of them too, dude. If one gets captured and tortured, he's given up everyone, or she's given up everyone.
If it's the one guy, he's done. I mean, he's going to give away the whole plot.
The guy that killed Cinta, he ain't going to be put up to anything. So these, and especially when it's being filmed live by Cyril and being play-by-play to Dedra and the major guy, and because this was all set up by Dedra's comment from an earlier episode saying you need to find some people making some wrong decisions. Basically, I'm paraphrasing, but they were able to set this up and get these people in a situation, and all of these people are going to be killed, dude. Whether we know something's bad's going to happen on Ghorman, we know that probably, because they're mining it, and they're probably going to use this situation of like, we have some bad seeds we need to take care of. That's why, we've got this, what is it? A base that they're building there with an armory and all that.
The armory. And
this is they're going to be able to use propaganda and turn people against the rebels here. And it's not going to end well.
Well, Kevin, I really don't have any hot takes for these 3 episodes, because I'm saving my hot takes because I have a feeling we're going to need them for the last 2 arcs.
Right.
So
right.
Do you have anything?
No hot takes. I'm good there. I'm just impressed with how well this show has been cast. And shout out again to the costumers, dude. That's my hot take.
That's going to conclude our coverage of Andor for this week on Culture Clash, but we're not quite done yet because, ladies and gentlemen, we've seen a few things. Buy it, stream it, or unsee it. That's right. It's time for our review section. Now, a lot of our time went to Andor, obviously, so maybe we haven't seen a whole lot of things, but you know what? We buy it, stream it, or unsee it. Do we buy it because we liked it so much, stream it? Hey, it was solid, but you know what? I don't know if I want to have it in my collection, or unsee it, just like Michael Morrison, the Pacific Rim sequel, but we won't talk about that anymore. But two, we got to shout out our good friends at Letterboxd. Kevin, what are you up to now?
I'm at currently 163 movies on the year. Excuse me, 166 films on the year. I'm a little behind because I've been watching a lot of really good TV. But it was interesting. My wife and I watched Back to the Future the other night because, of course, Time Warp next month on May, Back to the Future 3 comes out in 1990. But I'm like, I can't just watch Back to the Future 3 and be done with it. I got to watch the original trilogy there. So we did that. And what's really funny too, and my buddy Robert texted me and go, "Hey, guess what? I got a new truck. It's just like the black truck from Back to the Future." I'm like, "Dude, I just watched that movie. That truck is awesome."
Yes, it was. I'm a little worried when we get the Queen of Movie Food back, what her number might be.
Oh yeah, Lacey, I'm sure has piled them on. Yeah.
Well, guys, just a reminder too. Kevin and I both seen Thunderbolts. I'm just going to say this right now, and we're going to go more in depth with our special True Believers spoiler reaction show. But I'm just going to say this: Thunderbolts is a buy it for me. I absolutely love this film. One of the best things Marvel's done in a good while. If you want to know more from me, check out the Thunderbolts episode when we drop. Kevin, I know you've been wearing your Red Guardian helmet all around, haven't you?
If you're watching the video, you'll see what I'm pointing at. It's definitely a buy it for me. We're not going to get into anything about it because we want you guys to check into our spoiler reaction show on True Believers talking about Thunderbolts. We're going to have Lacey on there and hopefully a couple other guests as well. But I'm pointing to the popcorn buckets that I have here. That is going to be a discussion on the episode. So make sure you check that out.
Now, before we get into The Accountant 2, which you've seen, I have not had a chance to yet, Kevin. Last week, I talked about an anime series called Lazarus by the creator of Cowboy Bebop. There was a piece of information, Kevin, I forgot to drop specifically for you.
Yeah.
Something that a lot of people are excited about Lazarus. The person who designed all the fights for Lazarus is none other than Chad Stahelski.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah.
I like Chad. Chad's my guy. Yeah.
Yeah. He helped them develop all the fight sequences for the animation for Lazarus. So
amazing.
I want to just drop that piece of knowledge in. But Kevin, you have seen a movie that I definitely am interested in seeing, but I'm going to be honest with you. I've heard some mixed reviews on this particular film, but The Accountant 2 is here. Ben Affleck is back to crunch some numbers. John Barenthal might be back to crack some heads. Give me your thoughts on The Accountant 2.
So I actually did enjoy this film. My dad did too. My dad took my dad to see this film. We haven't actually been to a movie together in quite a while. My dad has been kind of, going to less movies the last couple of years. He's been mostly just watching TV, and I've been setting him up with some streaming stuff. Aaron and I, my wife and I, we actually have set him up watching Justified, and he loves that show. But I'm like, Dad, and I knew my dad liked this movie because my dad has this weird ability to find whether it's streaming or whether it's on a he watches mostly cable stuff, cable channels and stuff like that, to either find The Accountant or one of the Expendable movies. And he'll stop and watch the original Accountant anytime. And so when he knew this sequel was coming out and I showed him the trailer, I'm like, Dad, do you want to go see it with me? He's like, yes. So I took my dad to go see it. Now, what's interesting about this film, I understand why people might have some issues with this film, but I like it for the reasons that maybe people didn't like. What's interesting about this film, Kyle, is if you remember from the original film, you had Anna Kendrick in it, and she's working for that company that is making prosthetics and stuff like that. And what's his name? The actor that owned the company. I can't remember. He was in Raising Cain. He was.
I can't think of it. It's been a while since I've watched The Accountant.
Oh God, famous actor. He was in Third Rock from the Sun.
John Lithgow.
Yeah, John Lithgow played the owner of this. And the accountant is brought in and finds out that he's moving money around illegally, basically, and he's doing some nefarious things with it. And thus, then the first film, and he uses mercenaries basically to try to kill the accountant and to kill Anna Kendrick's character. But what Ben Affleck doesn't know at the time, his character, is that one of the mercenaries is his brother, because they were both brought up by a militaristic father and learned to fight. And then, of course, they both went in the military. And then they kind of come together at the end a little bit without killing each other. Well, what's interesting about this film, Kyle, is that you get a little history between these guys, but you also get a lot more John Barenthal in this. And he does a really good job. This movie is a little less on action and more on character development, but you also remember how he would get these mysterious phone calls from these people setting up with jobs? The story goes in that direction, and you find out who those people are and why he's in contact with them, because the people that are controlling like this kind of eye in the sky supercomputer people are people that are like him, that have this autistic kind of spectrum thing going on. And they touch on that a little bit in this film, and how they use what they do to get things done, and to get him to do his stuff. And both of them team up to stop basically I think it's a cartel that is using taking kids away from their parents and killing some of the parents, and they're trying to rescue these people basically. And they come together, but they come together because the original woman that worked with J.K. Simmons' character that was recruited by him, she seeks out the accountant. Because you see in the trailer, it's not a spoiler, you see in the trailer that J.K. Simmons' character dies, but he leaves a mysterious message, the accountant, find him. And she seeks him out, but doesn't approve of him doing the way that things are when she's trying to do things by the book, and he's not. He brings his brother into the situation, and there's some very funny moments between them, actually, Kyle. And so there's a lot of character development between these two and being brothers. And they butt heads too, because of, Ben Affleck not reaching out to his brother, and his brother's still a mercenary, when we see him. And so I really liked it for that. It was less on action. You get your moments towards the end and stuff like that. But I think people were kind of like, I needed more action, I'm guessing, because I got a lot of character development in this, and I really enjoyed it. So for me, buy it. I would definitely buy it. I'm going to buy it on physical media as well.
Yeah, I'm excited for this movie. I love the first one. Barenthal and Affleck have a great chemistry between them. You've seen it in the interviews that they're doing together on the press junkets for these. Yeah. I might not have been rushed out to see this yet, because I might be dealing with a little post-tax season PTSD.
Well, yeah, Ben Affleck is really good as Christian Wolf in this, and his little weird, things that he does,
secrecies and things.
Yeah, his we're just going to call him. He's definitely a guy on the spectrum, and him trying to explain that, but also the frustrations that John had dealing with him and that situation. And it hit home with me. I'm just going to be straight up honest here. It hit home with me, Kyle, because I have a brother who's autistic. I have a brother who is living in assisted living because of that. And I've had to deal with having a different brother than most people would have, or different type of sibling than most people would have. So I liked how they kind of touched on that.
Yeah, and that's something I know they've been really playing up in this press junket too. So I am going to see The Accountant too. I'm a fan of the first one. I cannot wait to see this. So glad to hear for you.
Gets a thumbs up from my dad, by the way. He liked it, and he stayed awake. He didn't sleep.
That's the most important thing. But guys, that's going to get ready for us to wrap up this episode of Culture Clash. But we got a little business to take care of before we get out of here. Of course, you've been watching Culture Clash here on the Fandom Podcast Network YouTube channel. This has been our episode covering continuing coverage of Andor Season 2, Episodes 4, 5, and 6. Ever been to Ghorman? I have friends everywhere. And what a festive evening that might end with some fireworks. I'm just saying that episode kind of ended with a bang. But
yes, it did.
But guys, just a reminder too, before we get out of here, once again, our friends over at What a Piece of Junk are doing great work covering Andor themselves. As long as they stay away from the death sticks, it's all good. But check them out too on the Fandom Podcast Network YouTube channel and the master feed for all of our audio podcasts. We are everywhere. We are not done covering Andor. We still have 2 more weeks of coverage to go. We've got some other things coming up too once Andor is wrapped up. I promise you, I've had several people ask me this. We will be getting to The Last of Us, but we have somebody who we want to bring in for that, and we want to let a few more episodes get in that. But don't worry, we are going to do a deep dive into The Last of Us season 2, so don't even worry about that. We're just going to get through some Andor coverage first, but we are excited about The Last of Us. I have been thoroughly surprised and impressed with what they've done.
My wife and I have been enjoying watching that on the Sunday nights when it drops.
Yeah. And of course, too, as we see up here, we got 2 more weeks of Andor left. May 6th, episodes 7 through 9 drop, and May 13th, 10 through 12. And we got a 58-minute episode in there, Kevin, but everything else now we're in that 40-minute range. So
it's like 42 to like 48, So yeah, but yeah,
I have a feeling episode 9 is going to be very powerful.
We'll see.
We shall see. But again, you're watching Culture Clash on the Fandom Podcast Network YouTube channel, or listening to it on whatever amazing podcast stream you're listening to. And we appreciate your support and appreciate you guys listening. We are the Fandom Podcast Network. We try to, make podcasts to feed your ears and just cover as much as we can in fandom, because we all love everything that's happening in fandom right now. Again, scan the QR code to get to the main page of our audio podcast at fpnet.podbean.com. And like I said, you can find us on all your major podcast distributors, whether it's iTunes, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Spotify, all of them out there.
X, we're on X at FanPod Network, Blue Sky at FanPod Network, and of course Instagram at Fandom Podcast Network, and Facebook, and email us at fandompodcastnetwork@gmail.com.
Yep. And of course, you can find me on all the socials at AKyleW on X and Blue Sky. You can find me at AKyleFandom on Threads and Instagram. Kevin, where can people find you on socials?
You can find me on X, Instagram, Threads, Discord, and Letterboxd at Spartan_Phoenix. And you can find me on Blue Sky at Spartan Phoenix.
And two, guys, if you want to give us a little love, we do have a TeePublic store. Go to TeePublic, search for the Fandom Podcast Network. You can find all of our gear there, from shirts. I'm going to learn to talk again, I promise. Hats, pillows, hoodies, all kinds of great stuff on teepublic.com. We do get a little kickback. Got to keep the kaiju in the basement fed. It gets ugly when we don't, and our Jaegers are out of gas right now. So I'm just saying that. Please help us out, guys. Tesseract Power on True Believer is also not cheap at all. But but in all seriousness, we love seeing you guys wear the gear. We love this when you guys give us the support. It's always much appreciated. So teepublic.com, search for Fandom Podcast Network, or the title of any of your favorite shows on the network. But guys, we are done here, wrapping up our coverage Andor season 2. Kevin, it's been a blast as always.
Well done, sir. Well done. It's been a lot of fun, man.
I promise I'm not going to leave you tied to a chair with a weird piece of headgear.
Thank you. Yeah. My wife and I did a 28-mile bike ride today, so we're a little wiped anyway. That did its job, trust me.
In other words, he's already worn a weird piece of headgear most of the day.
Yeah, pretty much. Yes.
But guys, again, thank you so much for your support, and thank you for listening. As we get out of here, we'll close out like we always do. Most importantly, these 2 things above everything else: respect each other, and even more importantly, no matter what it is, don't be ashamed of it. Enjoy it. Enjoy your fandom. And with that, guys, we have done this thing. Kevin, it's been a blast as always. We will see you next week for more Andor coverage. There might be spiders, there might not. I'm not making any promises, guys. Until next time, we will see you. This is the Fandom Podcast Network. We've done this thing. We are out of here.